I'm now 75 years old and still look forward to the cherry blossom season every year. This year, the cherry blossoms were in full bloom much later than usual. Moreover, the weather in Tokyo was not very good during this time. On April 7th, I finally visited昭和記念Park in western Tokyo on a sunny day and was able to take beautiful photos and videos of the cherry blossoms against the blue sky. Later, when I visited Ishikawa and Niigata prefectures on the Sea of Japan side in mid-April, I was still able to enjoy cherry blossoms. By the way, there was a large earthquake on January 1st of this year on the Noto Peninsula in Ishikawa Prefecture. As a result of the earthquake, there was a large-scale coastal uplift of up to 4 meters on the coast of the Noto Peninsula. The damage was also severe. Fortunately, I didn't see much damage in Kanazawa City, which is close to the Noto Peninsula. But when I saw the beautiful cherry blossoms blooming around Kanazawa Castle, I thought about the relationship between the disaster-prone Japan and cherry blossom culture. Why do Japanese people love cherry blossoms so deeply? Of course, the biggest reason for this is the indescribable beauty when they are all in full bloom, all at once. Its beauty is even more remarkable because only the blossoms bloom before the leaves appear. And that heralds the arrival of full-fledged spring. Spring in Japan cannot be talked about separately from cherry blossoms. Cherry blossoms symbolize the changing seasons in Japan. There are many other countries that have 4 seasons, but Japan has particularly distinct seasons. Customs and culture have developed in which people are aware of these changes in their lives and deeply enjoy them. And cherry blossoms are the most vivid sign of seasonal change. Japanese people enjoy the arrival of spring through the custom of cherry blossom viewing, called hanami, under the cherry blossoms in full bloom. However, there is another reason why Japanese people love cherry blossoms. The reason is that the flowering period is extremely short, around 10 days. Cherry blossoms bloom all at once, revealing their beauty for a moment, and then disappearing in the blink of an eye. Because the life of the blossom is short, we cherish that short time all the more. People enjoy cherry blossom viewing as if they regret the short life of the blossoms. The cherry blossom season is magnificent and enchanting, but sadly short-lived, a visual reminder of the fragility of our lives. In this sense, hanami reminds us that life is short and that we must cherish every moment of it. Today, many people seem to simply enjoy hanami parties under the cherry blossoms with family, friends, and colleagues. However, historically, the viewing of cherry blossoms has also recognized as a meditative experience. And even today, when Japanese people gather to view cherry blossoms and marvel at their beauty, they are not just enjoying the beauty of the flowers, but somewhere deep down, they must be aware of the deeper meaning and cultural traditions that the cherry blossoms represent. Even though they may appear to be simply drinking, singing, dancing, and enjoying themselves under the cherry blossoms, they may be remembering the brilliance and impermanence of life while enjoying the present. Actually, one of my favorite parts of the cherry blossoms is the scenery of scattering cherry blossom petals. In Japanese, there is a word called hanafubuki, which describes the beautiful sight of cherry blossom petals falling like snow. The falling cherry blossoms like snow highlight both their beauty and transience. The Japanese cherry blossom is linked to the Buddhist themes of mortality, mindfulness, and living in the present, making it an eternal metaphor of human existence. The title of this video is Why are cherry blossoms a symbol of Japanese culture? The answers to this question is deeply related to the fact that cherry blossoms bloom only for a short time. Japan is a country rich in nature, with 67% of its land covered in forests, surrounded by ocean on all sides, and with beautiful coastlines everywhere. However, at the same time, there are many natural disasters such as earthquakes, tsunamis, typhoons, heavy rain, and floods. In the early 1200s, or early Kamakura period, Kamono Chome wrote an essay called Hojoki, or Diary from a Cabin. This is one of the masterpieces of classic essays. At the beginning, it says, "Rivers never cease to flow, and never stay the same. Even where the water looks stagnant, the bubbles rise, form and disappear with no exception. Nothing stays the same, even in human society, man and his home." This sentence is famous. Every Japanese person has heard it, and will feel it is true. This feeling is deeply ingrained in the hearts of Japanese people. This view forms the basis of the Japanese view of history and life. In other words, everything changes and nothing stays forever. On the other hand, what about European countries? There are almost no earthquakes, tsunamis, or typhoons, and even when there are floods, the water does not rise as rapidly as the floods in Japan. In other words, it is unlikely that everything will be destroyed or washed away by natural disasters. The birthplaces of Da Vinci, Newton, Rousseau, and Mozart still remain today. In Japan, there are no remains of the birthplaces of those who were active during their era. Of course, there are also differences between stone buildings and wooden buildings. In any case, in Europe, there is a tendency for new things to pile up on top of the legacy of the old. However, in Japan, buildings are made of wood, and there are many natural disasters, so everything tends to disappear over time. Japanese people have a strong sense that everything is flowing away and disappearing, and Japanese culture is based on this feeling. In Europe, a culture has developed that values things that don't change because it is difficult to change. However, in Japan, a culture has developed that accepts change because everything changes. everything will change even if we don't do anything. So, culture that is premised on change has developed, and people found beauty in the process of changing and disappearing. This may be one of the reasons why Japanese people value the changes of the four seasons. The Japanese people's inherent tendency to find beauty in change and transience has been amplified by the influence of the Buddhist idea of mujokan, which is the idea of the impermanence of all things. The mujokan is said to be one of the important elements that characterize the Japanese concept of beauty, which has been cultivated over many years since the Middle Ages. Now you understand why cherry blossoms are a symbol of Japanese culture. The reason why Japanese people love cherry blossoms so much is because they represent both beauty and transience. Cherry blossoms bloom beautifully for a very short time, then scatter in the blink of an eye. People see the transience of their own lives as a reflection of the beautiful yet short life of the cherry blossom. Looking at the cherry blossoms, people realize how fleeting human life is in the face of nature, which is rich but can also be ferocious at times. This sense of impermanence, called mujokan, is at the root of Japanese culture and aesthetic sense. Norinaga Motori, a scholar of ancient Japanese thought and culture, wrote a short poem called Waka. If asked what the Japanese spirit is, I would answer that it is the mountain cherry blossoms shining in the sunrise. 引き島の大和心を人とわば、朝日に匂う山桜花。引き島の大和心を人とわば、朝日に匂う山桜花。